Hello, and welcome to the HackerNoon podcast. I am David Smook, the CEO of HackerNoon, and today my colleague, the Chief Product Officer of HackerNoon, Dane Lyons, is joining us to discuss some interesting internet news. What's up, Dane?
Oh, not too much. So what just happened to the internet? Did our president just sign an executive order that forces social media to be his personal megaphone?
And so some background there. He released a video and hasn't released the whole order yet, but is attacking Section 230 of the Communications Act. And I'm going to read a section here from the EFF website so we can have some context of what this is. Section 230 says that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. And then this is EF. In other words, online intermediaries that host or republish speech are protected against a range of laws that might otherwise be used to hold them legally responsible for what others say and do. The protected intermediaries include not only regular internet service providers, ISPs, but also a range of interactive computer service providers, including basically any online services that publishes third-party content. Though there are important exceptions for certain criminal and intellectual property-based claims, CDA 230 creates a broad protection that has allowed innovative and free speech online to flourish. So that's what it is, and that's what he's threatening to attack. And now why? Backing up, what did Twitter do? They wrote, "Get the facts about mail-in ballots," and below 2 Trump tweets, and linked to more information about mail-in ballots by other users, and including their own tweet that had something called a civic integrity policy. So yeah, they linked to that related content.
Yeah, that's kind of. I'm actually in favor of Twitter's fact-checking solution. It's actually a decent way to solve the problem. It allows Twitter to not really play the role of content police. It allows people to be free to say what they want, and it just adds a little annotation that fact checks what they said. Fact checking, it's not censoring or editing what users are saying. Even if people say something, if people say like a blatant lie, it's just an attempt to make more people aware of misinformation on social media. And this shouldn't be politically motivated one way or another. It's just transparent. It's just a transparency tool that prevents abuse. It's as simple as that.
I also like that the approach doesn't edit or censor the content itself. As a social media platform, there's this phrase has been flying around of, are they an arbiter of truth? And it frames, what content it should be linked to next. So I also like the approach versus saying, hey, we're going to edit or delete content, saying, hey, like there's content that, where does information hit misinformation? If it's anywhere close to misinformation, do you delete it? No, like you don't, that would be a much more aggressive approach, but it really does open a whole can of worms, because what percentage of tweets aren't facts and what percentage of tweets are misinformation? And like, there's gonna be, it's interesting to launch a feature by putting it on one user and seeing what happens. But they just did that, and if they do it platform-wide, there's going to be a lot of these links everywhere of saying fact-checking and linking to related content.
Yeah, I just don't really understand how they're supposed to play both sides. Like, how do you provide a platform that allows free speech, but then be liable for the things that people say? Like, it just seems like this insane world that we're creating that is... it's just impossible to build a publishing platform or like a social media platform in that world. I don't know who would go and invest a boatload of cash to do that in this world.
It's funny to think about which users are you liable for? Like if someone live streams a murder on Facebook, is Facebook liable, for the murder? Right. Is Twitter liable for Trump. If Trump creates a World War III by tweeting something so catastrophic, can they
Right.
sue him for creating a damaging economic environment via their platform?
Yeah.
So it's at the time of speaking, we haven't heard exactly what the order is. So there's some ambiguity there. I'm because internet law will evolve, and this 230 clause is very important. But there's many other laws that could happen. Basing back in reality, the head of the FCC. So this is what he said about this morning about Trump. He said, "This does not work. Social media can be frustrated, but an executive order that would turn the Federal Communications Commission into the president's speech police is not the answer. It's time for those in Washington to speak up for the First Amendment. History won't be kind to silence." Boom.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what does Twitter do here? Do they now ban Trump and to try to avoid that liability, or how do they deal with the situation?
There was a great article on Forbes. It just basically said Trump and Twitter both need each other. It's like a bad marriage they can't get out of, because Trump needs the audience distribution and Twitter needs the traffic. So this thing has just been boiling, because lots of people think they should have banned him for breaking their terms of service earlier. And, the bullying and other stuff that he's done before with Twitter, that other users have done too. But myself, in these times of free speech debate, I often think, what does the ALCU think about this? And they had some pretty solid burns today that I'm going to read to you. "Much as he might wish otherwise, Donald Trump is not the president of Twitter. This order would be a blatant and unconstitutional threat to punish social media companies that displease the president. The president has no authority to rewrite a congressional statute with an executive order imposing a flawed interpretation of Section 230. Section 230 incentivizes platform to host all sorts of content without fear of being held liable. It enables speech, not censorship. Ironically, Trump is a big beneficiary of Section 230. If platforms were not immune under the law, they would not risk the legal liability that comes with hosting Trump's lies, defamation, and threats."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that we risk not having like a free and fair election without this thing, because now if say if Twitter and Facebook and YouTube now ban Trump, I think that's I think that's actually damaging to our democracy in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's really all these candidates should be there, and if the companies can't take on the liability of this, hosting the free speech discussion and just discussion in general, but it is, all this is a real testament to how important social networks have become. I mean, you look at how effective Facebook advertising was for Trump in 2016. He spent less money than Hillary Clinton and did a better job, like his team. So, and now here we are leading up to the 2020 election, and now we're already getting a lot of social media framing about how this should be perceived and who's doing what. And it's not a great time to be alive, I guess. You think you get access to all this information, you know more. And that logic to me makes a lot of sense, but now there's more information available, and it gets more tools to manipulate it. And it's like, what is truth? Like, maybe the fly knows better than the human.
Yeah, it's going to be a major task to try to decipher what's true and what's not true. And that's why I like the Twitter solution so much. Like, I mean, I guess you could argue that I mean, that they have a political agenda in choosing which pieces of content to annotate with their information, but still, like, it is kind of like a checks and balances system in a way.
Providing context around content is part of the job of the platform. So what time was it published? Who published it? And then what related content should you read? And in this case, they're saying that the related content should be that maybe you should get facts elsewhere about this. So
right.
I don't know what Trump's going to do next. I'm looking forward to reading the wording of what the order actually is, and then how the FCC and the Senate and Congress comply or do not comply. in order to make a better internet.
Yeah, I just don't see how this is possibly making a better internet. I mean, maybe like 230 is not. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't written the way that it should be written, and maybe that needs to be revised or something like that. And this could be an opportunity to do that. But based on what I'm hearing, I don't think this is making a more free internet.
Yeah, because it sounds like he's saying that this fact checking thing is editing content and censoring content, and if it seems like he just wants to control the social networks, and that is frightening.
Yeah, it does feel like a very authoritarian thing, which I don't think that's going to result in free speech.
What do you think the internet's going to do in response?
I mean, the internet has to fight back if our free speech is being taken away, and if suddenly nobody's incentivized to go and start a social platform because of the liability. I mean, if you have to get some kind of crazy liability insurance to even enter the game at this point, that's not a level playing field.
And that
So,
would make the incumbents more powerful, ironically. If competitors can't emerge if Mastodon can't emerge to Twitter because the cost to start doing it is so high that now only the ones that exist are going to have, they're going to have the whole audience, and people can't share audience anymore. It's really going to be negative for innovation.
yeah, and if they're if they're the source of truth, that's always a potential risk. There should be more publishers out there, not fewer.
Yeah, and if this barrier makes it harder to create competitors, now it centralizes the discussion to Twitter. It actually helps their share price, and it gives Trump more share of voice within the platform that has more share of voice of the whole internet, which would be a dark path.
Yep, exactly.
So anyway, we don't want to take up too much of your time today. We kind of want to just do a short thing. If you like these short discussions about what's going on the web, we'll do more of them, and we'll get more from the community. I guess my lasting thought is just protect the internet, man. Don't let this fuck it up.
That's great. Well, we'll see you on the internet, hopefully.
Maybe. Later.